Cool.
So it looks like we're recording. I have the first point on the agenda. I have some kind of sad news. I'm going to be moving to the secure team. Um, so that means a couple of things. This is not going to happen like overnight. I would imagine it's going to take a few months to transition completely because we have new designers on the team and new PMs, and it'll just work, I think, better for everyone if it's a little bit of a slow thing. So I'm thinking I'll just slowly ramp down, but we haven't decided on any kind of transition plan. This also means that we're going to open a new designer spot for the plan team. And I don't know whether Gabe and Keenan, if you have been involved yet in hiring, but we do encourage the PMs to also be a part of the hiring process for that stage's openings. So maybe reach out to whoever's in charge of that, or I can reach out. We have Rupert who's doing our recruiting. So you can be a part of the design interview process too. Does anyone have any concerns or questions about that right now? And it doesn't have to be right now, it can be whenever.
I'm sad, but yes, Shane has reached out to me and let me know that he would like us to participate in the recruiting process. My interview training is in flight already, so I can expedite that to kind of be more active. And I think I would also say one thing I would ask from you is that whoever we do bring in, you also get to vet them to make sure that they are suitable replacement for you, because you're a good judge of what the team needs, and I think getting your sign off would also be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I've been interviewing candidates already, not for plan specifically, but I think I'll definitely be involved in that too. And Holly and Alexis too, if you want to be involved, definitely we could use your input too. That's it for me.
All right, since I have the next item. So I have started dog fooding GitLab for some side projects, and I am wondering if we are going to invest more in mobile usability, because I've been using Trello for some side projects, and the mobile app that they have, everything works smoothly, and I'm a heavy mobile user. So I was wondering, because I found an issue on boards while you're using it on mobile. And I also noticed that like horizontal scrolling doesn't work very well, and drag and drop is also difficult. So I was just wondering if there is any plan in this area.
That is a good question. Annabelle, Alexis, Holly, maybe you all know if we have any initiatives to improve our mobile usability. I haven't seen any around mobile specifically, but maybe there's something.
I haven't seen mobile specific, but I wonder if we should see how many users are trying to access issue boards on mobile before we focus on that. We can use Trello as a good judge and see what they can do. I honestly didn't know it was that bad. I can see how drag and drop would be weird, but the scrolling horizontally, I assumed would work. But once we get actual data on that, maybe we can proceed.
Yeah, I don't think there was even navigation really on boards until about a month ago when Martin and I added it. So there's definitely a lot we could do there. I think Annabelle makes a really good point, just like see who is using it, how many people, and how, and then do some testing around that, and then hopefully start getting some time to work on it.
Yeah, I agree that I'd be curious to know who's using it, and for those that aren't using it, why they're not using it. Is it because the experience is less than optimal, or is it because they just don't see a need? I'd be curious on that as well.
I am, just to add to the numbers piece, I'm meeting with telemetry later today to talk about our stage level dashboard, among other things. So I will see if we can fit this into our stage level dashboard, like on a feature-ish type level, so we can have that breakdown of I guess application type is the appropriate way that GitLab refers to the different contexts through which you can access or use GitLab, or maybe that only applies to the stuff that you can build on GitLab. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think we should service that data and make it kind of available on a go forward basis.
Cool. Yeah, I've done a little bit of, because in order to access that data, we would have to use our snowplow metrics, which we have in there. It's just not easily accessible through through our visualization platform, Periscope. But I can look into that also. Gabe, maybe I'll chat with you after you meet with telemetry and see what we can do.
Sounds good.
Cool. Okay. Looks like you're up next.
Yeah. So one thing that I've noticed just is like from an issue management standpoint that I found kind of hard to reconcile is when we split issues on like technical boundaries instead of on like customer or user value boundaries. So I think at one point we're working on the description diff and be able to track that. And there's a separate front end card and then there's a separate back end card. And the back end card is really far. And then the front end card is kind of moving along. But I was just like thinking that it makes sense to try to do, if something is too big and requires cross-functional collaboration, to like split on feature services to reduce the scope and break the scope out instead of like the technical pieces out, if that makes sense. Because that way it's easier to reason about how we can ship smaller increments of user value quickly and together. And then it also makes it like easier so you don't have to like track a bunch of different dependencies across a bunch of different workflow states for one like feature before it can be shipped to the end user. And I just wanted to get any input from the team on that before I make a suggestion or propose a change to our team page on the handbook.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm not sure why we split that one up, because typically we don't split up into front end and separate front end back end issues. MRs are okay to split up, obviously, but at the issue level, we tend to keep it bound to kind of the feature. I don't remember why we did it on that one, but I think regardless, I think it is a good idea to explicitly define that in our plan page on how we work. So I agree and support you putting together that proposal.
Does anybody else have any input, feedback?
Yeah, like I'm in favor of it in principle, right? But we use the back end and front end labels to compose boards for engineers to follow. Like we have a couple of Kanban style boards with swim lanes. We just need to revisit those, like, and maybe, you know, make them team wide instead of splitting the boards into back end and front end as well. But in principle, like I'm for it. It's just that seems to be like a slight wider issue with parent issues and sub issues, like generally, which can make it like can be hard to know looking at a given issue. I think like maybe probably most of the ones I seem to work on, they have some peripheral issues around them. Like they don't necessarily you have one issue and it's kind of tied to another issue but not blocked by it, but it's blocked by this issue, and it's very hard to tell sort of where a given piece of work is sometimes, and I don't know how much of this would be a symptom of that as a wider problem.
I agree with the wider problem. I think Mark is here and he'll be working on. Oh yeah, did we see? Has he even gotten an invite to this? Is Mark here?
We tend to not invite PMs until a couple.
All right. Yeah, this is his second week, so I'm going to add him to the invite right now before we forget that. But in any event, he's going to be working, I think, on some of the like requirements management piece, which will deal with like issue dependencies and all of those other things and kind of surface that. I think the other issue we've looked at, like specifically for engineering managers, they like to have different issues on the technical boundaries so they can do capacity planning, especially like internal ones. And we can accomplish that through adding tasks to issues to make it easier for cross-functional teams to like manage function specific scope and see that like extrapolated out. The other thing is I would like us to work towards moving to a centralized board, either on the stage level or a group level, and everybody using that same board to reference work, because I would like to, and as soon as we have the work in progress limits done, I want to start playing around with implementing work in progress limits, and we'll like, I'll write up a whole thing about it so everybody understands what they are before we do it, and we'll talk about it in a weekly team meeting and have a discussion. But that will only be meaningful if everybody's looking at the same issue board, because unless somebody wants to maintain a separate work in progress limit that maps to the main issue board. So all that to say is like, yes, there are larger issues, and I think we should be intentional about like flushing those out so that we can fix them, because they're not just our problems. There are lots of groups' problems at GitLab, and probably lots of other people's problems that are customers. So
if you look into, like, I was reading back in some of the issues where it had been discussed before about having sub-issues, and somebody had suggested that when you have sub-issues, the parent issues should have a combined weight of the sub-issues. And if that was the case, then it'd be much, much easier, because say like the front end people had a different strategy towards weighting than we would on the back end. The combined weights that we use to calculate velocity would have some shift, because it's not comparing like with like. Whereas if we combined everything into feature issues, then the combined weight, it wouldn't matter, because we'd be going on the combined weight every milestone of the issues.
yeah, that's the general plan. And I made a proposal. I'll find it in a second. But for the behavior of issue tasks to work like that, so an issue task can have a weight assigned to it. It can have maybe a label. It can have a person assigned to it. And then that way, like if there is a weight on a task item in a task list on an issue, then that overrides the global weight set manually, and then it becomes a calculated weight based on the total sum or aggregate of all the weights of the tasks within the issue. And I do agree, like it's not about engineering, how engineering weights it or how front end weights it. It's the combined weight over time, and as long as that doesn't change, even if engineering and front end or back end and front end do it differently, as long as that doesn't necessarily change, it'll still yield the same effect of providing that velocity. So cool.
Yeah, I think having the subtask is an important part of that, because we kind of do that right now in the issues that have both front end and back end labels are technically a combined front end and back end weight. We just don't have a way of explicitly saying, okay, out of this 5 weight, 3 of it is front end, 2 of it is back end. We kind of do that on the side. Like I have a spreadsheet on the side where I'm keeping track of the actual like front end weights. But it would definitely be nice to be able to do that in product.
Cool. Yeah, I'll move that issue into the validation stage, because I have already done some discovery around it and some problem validation and taken some notes, and it's a widely requested feature already in the wider community. So we'll see if we can get that prioritized for one of the near future releases, and I will drop that link into the agenda momentarily.
Cool. That's the last point. Anyone have anything else? No? Okay. Well, have a good rest of the week. Alexis, thanks for volunteering to record and uploading to YouTube. And see you all later. Bye.